Welcome back everyone to Wednesday. Sorry, my other video maxed out and we will have to be doing it on a separate video. Hopefully it's not confuse you too much. We are on Wednesday and we are on our third phenomenon. Once again, one that's relatively basic for fifth graders. What happens if ice melts to water? Remember that our whole goal is to think about conservation of matter. Okay, the fact that matter is never really lost or made, it changes. So what happens to the property of ice as it melts? Okay, what will happen to the mass of ice as it melts into water? And what caused that change? Remember, you can always go back to the beginning of the slides to help you answer it. Also remember, scientists always use complete sentences. So you must use a complete sentence before looking at the visual on the next pages, next slides in this scenario. I wanted to bring us back to this because this phenomena is a little bit different. Remember here when we talked about that matter is conserved, but matter can also change. An ice cube can change into water. Water can change into gas, but that the matter is never actually lost. It doesn't change mass, it changes states, or a phase change is what they call it. Okay, so I want you to think about that if you would like to change your answers before going to the next slide. Now on this one, we have ice, heating and or cooling, and then water. And remember, they stay the same. And here is a graph that also shows what happens before and after the ice went from ice to water. Okay, explain this picture. What is this picture trying to prove to us? How does that confirm your previous thoughts or change your previous thoughts? Please make sure that this is a thoughtful, full sentence or two that explains how your changing might have your thoughts may have changed. All right. The next day is Thursday. So at this point, please pause. Do not move on to Thursday until the next day. Welcome back. It is Thursday. Today, this is our last phenomenon. This is what happens to water if it is heated to its boiling point. When something is heated to its boiling point, it actually produces a boil, and that is when we oftentimes tend to see tons of steam coming off of the top. Same questions as before. What happens to the property of water as it heats up? What will happen to the mass of the water? And what caused that change? These should be written in complete sentences. And once again, really thinking about conservation of matter and what we know about the fact that matter can never be lost and it can never be made. Whoops. Now, I want you to think about it for a little while. What does conservation of mass really mean to you? This is your task today on Thursday. You should be able to define what does conservation of mass mean. Think about all of the phenomena we looked at. Salt and water mixing, baking soda and vinegar mixing, ice turning into water, and water turning into gas. What do we really learn about it? Go back to the beginning of the slides, and I want you to have your own kid-friendly scientist definition. Okay, please do not just copy and paste my exact definition. Try to think creatively and write one on your own. Also, don't Google it. Then give an example of this. You may use one of the examples that has been given throughout the reading or one of the days. However, I encourage you to try to think of another one. There's lots of different things that might be able to prove what conservation of mass really means. Okay, as you do that, I am going to explain this because there isn't a fun visual besides this that proves these answers. What happens to the property of water as it heats up? Okay, the molecules in the water start moving extremely fast, which creates a gas now. When molecules start moving quicker, they start to move apart from each other, making a gas instead of a liquid, which is when we see the steam. You could also say something like the property becomes steamy or cloudy or murky as opposed to a liquid, you can also say it is becoming a gas. What happens to the mass of the water? The mass of the water changes into the mass of a gas. Therefore, the mass stays the same. This is still water. Technically, the mass is exactly the same. It is now just a gas form of water instead of a liquid form of water. So if you put that the mass gets lower because there's less water in there, that is wrong. Conservation of mass tells us it's staying the same. It's just not inside the pot anymore. What caused this change? The change here is the rising of temperature. And specifically, it is the boiling point. When water or any liquid hits a boiling point, it is when it starts to change into a gas. Hopefully that helps you answer this question a little bit. This is your take it out the door for the week. This really shows us what you have learned throughout this week. So please take it seriously. Once again, writing in complete sentences, capitals, periods, really show us that you can prove what conservation of mass is so that by the end of the week you can have some fun watching some other videos that are similar to this topic. Yay, it is Friday. And that means that today you should be catching up on any work that you may have missed throughout the week, checking all of your slides, making sure that things were in complete sentences, things were working well, your answers are thoughtful and thorough for a 5th grade scientist. Then, just for fun, here are 3 videos that all go along with our topic. Okay, I'm not going to tell you what they're about because it would be really fun if you watched all 3. For each one, I want you to write 3 things that you learned about. So you might have to add a slide. Technically speaking, for at least my remote class, you only have to watch one of the videos. However, if you choose to watch all 3, you will get extra credit, but you will have to add a slide so you can add your 3 things that you learned. All 3 of them have to do with similar topics, but they are not all about the conservation of mass. Some of them kind of go off of other topics that were intertwined throughout this week's learning. I hope you learned what conservation of matter is this week so that we can continue to expand on matter and what it is and how it affects us as humans on a daily basis. Have a great weekend.